So, what is your professional background?
Yeah, my professional background is really just on-the-job training. My family was in the restaurant business, so I sort of started out at the lowest levels, worked my way up, went off into the service. I was in the Marine Corps for a couple of years, came back, was put into a management program, and then went into the field to operate a restaurant. Then operated 2 and then 3, and then got involved in some of the ownership. Took about 3 years off from that, finished my degree, but my intention was really not to go back into the restaurant business. My intention was to get a degree in communication and go into broadcast communication. That's what I originally planned to do, until I realized it didn't pay anything. and you could make a lot more in your own business. So I went back into the restaurant business, and which was the family business. By that time, my father, who was the majority shareholder, wanted to retire, so then he sort of put me into his own self-created entrepreneurial program to kind of just learn what it meant to own the business. And then he retired and sold it to me, and then I expanded and contracted over the years. Now it's smaller. I'm kind of semi-retired, so it's we used to have 8. Now we just have 3 that operate. But we've had as many as 14 in the past, and it involves everything from, it's a franchise, Western Sizzling Steakhouse franchise, so they provide some assistance, but usually you're kind of on your own to do your site location and contractors and the building design, equipment layout, so all the things that you would need to actually start a restaurant freestanding from ground up. And then of course there's staffing and marketing and the whole operations, and of course I'm not really an accountant, but you always have to have an accounting department or outsource those kinds of things. Now we outsource our accounting, our payroll is all done, but way back in the day we did all those things in-house.
So what do you do, what kind of things do you look for when you're promoting your business? What kind of things do you do?
Well, of course, I think the important thing is to figure out what kind of customers you're serving. Again, I think I'll use restaurants as the only thing I have really good expertise in. Is, if I was going into a restaurant, I would want to know, what is it, an older group, is it a younger group, what's the demographics, what's their income level, what can they afford to pay, what do they, because getting to know their age and getting to know their taste and getting to know their kind of life patterns and getting to know what they can afford is location by location what you have to know. That's how you sort of market. So for example, most of our restaurants were at the time, were in smaller southern towns. I can remember in the early days of Western Sizzling, it was many years, and it started in Augusta, Georgia, but it was many years before the first Western Sizzling ever was built in Atlanta. And you say, really? Because nobody really wanted to tackle the big city, the heavy competition, the heavy traffic patterns, the very expensive land. So you went to places like Macon, Georgia, or you went to places like Albany, Georgia, or Thomasville, Georgia. You went to small towns. You didn't want to go too small, and some people made that mistake, but you went to smaller towns. So Tallahassee, where we are here, was a great sized town back in the 60s and 70s as far as that. And even to the day, would still, if you had a good, this is still a booming place for a new restaurant. It's just kind of the right size. Property is not too expensive. So, that's an important thing. But again, Tallahassee's check average, and now you can do research on that. You had to do a lot of guessing back in my day, but now you can research those kinds of things. That would be quite different than 30 miles up the road at a place like Thomasville, Georgia.
So what any like other advice you would have for someone trying to start up a business?
Well, I think I would, if I was thinking of being in food service, I would make myself work in food service 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I would work under other people and learn their mistakes, learn their advantages, even if they weren't mentoring you or anything. You can learn a lot by observation. Really get in with a company, get into into their management program. You're going to not learn as much. You know, you can make better money, say, waiting on tables as a server, but you're not going to learn all the aspects of the business.
Yeah.
You can be a hostess, you can be a cashier, you can be a cook. You know, you can do all these different individual jobs, and those are great starting points. But I would find a business that was growing and basically said, look, if you work for me and you're faithful and you come to work and you learn stuff, you're going to kind of slowly move up. And then move up in that company. Not because you want to own one of those particular restaurants, but that's the best way to learn all the different aspects of restaurants, because the restaurant business is not just marketing and not just site location and not just putting together a business plan, but it's, you know, it's a lot of human relations. You know, you necessarily have to have a lot of employees, and employees have issues, and you have to be sensitive to that. Because good employees, even fairly good employees, are very hard to find. And so when you have them, you want to really keep them, work on retaining them. And the best way to retain them is to respect them and care about what's going on in their lives. But at the same time, if you let the business be run by the employees, it's not going to be successful. It has to be managed, and so you want to have people that can be managed, but you have to be the one to do that. Then on top of that, there's all kinds of other aspects to the restaurant business, like long hours and hard work. And, you know, people like to eat on the weekends, for example. So you have to like to work on the weekends.
Yeah.
And most people don't like to work on the weekends. Most people like to have, but there's not very many successful restaurants that, you know, open on Monday and close Friday at 5 o'clock. That's a whole different type of animal. So those are just some of the things that you have to consider. And those are things that you will learn if you spend a few years, you know, going up in a restaurant. A person who starts a restaurant and they're still like in their 20s, wow, unless they've been doing it since they were 15 or 16, that doesn't seem the wisest use of their money. In other words, because probably what's going to happen is they're going to invest their money or their parents' money or their uncle's money or their lottery winnings or whatever, and what they're going to learn is a lot of things the hard way. Yeah. They're going to be on the backside going, wow, I wish I had that $100,000 back, because this is what I would have done, but they've tried and failed, and they get discouraged. Yeah. And so if you work for somebody else, let them take the risk, because there's a lot of risk to it, until you feel like, wow, I think I've got my idea. I think I've got an idea, or I've got an idea for location, or I've got an idea for a neat idea. And you can just kind of develop that in your mind and in your computer, and just kind of keep that to it if you've got a particular thing. You learn probably more by failing than you do by succeeding. So it's better to kind of get that from somebody else. So seek wise counsel, seek advice, seek experienced people that have done it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Thank you.
Hope that helped.